This edition of the Fun Astrology Podcast is brought to you by Levels of Energy audiobook, written by Frederick Dodson and narrated by me. Learn how the entire universe is structured on energy and how, when we operate from low levels of energy, we naturally attract negative things into our life. But when we shift to operating from higher levels of energy, we are protected from negative things and actually start drawing beautiful things into our life. Levels of Energy audiobook is available on audible.com and iTunes. Welcome in to the Fun Astrology Podcast. It is Monday, March 29th. We are in month-end mode right here with a couple of more days left, and then we have April coming on Thursday. Hope you had a good weekend. I've been watching this Suez Canal shipping story, and the news very early this morning is that the ship is freed. Yay! Wow, this thing has been amazing. What a story, and what an astrological story, because that's what I did over the weekend, is spent some time looking into the astrological impacts of this story. So if you've been following it at all, last Tuesday, this very large, they say it's 4 football fields long, this ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. The short of it is that 30% of the world's goods, think about that. Think about the magnitude of that. 30% of the world's goods goes through the Suez Canal. Now, I didn't see this, but as I was talking to a friend over the weekend, he said that he had seen that one of the goods that mostly comes through the Suez Canal, oh no, not again, toilet paper. So who knows? If this had not resolved, we might be on a run of more toilet paper. But it didn't look like this thing was going to budge. And there is a ship right now today in St. Simon Island, Georgia, in the United States. St. Simon Island. It is on its side. It's near Brunswick, Georgia, is the biggest town nearby. It's laying on its side. It was carrying a load of cars, and it ran aground, turned sideways, I guess because of the cargo shift, and they are having to cut the ship into pieces to get it out. It's been there since September of 2019. So I was thinking, goodness sakes, if they can't figure this out, this is an enormous problem. Well, I looked at the astrology, and this was so interesting, particularly the keywords that we do every day. The number one keyword for the day last week on Tuesday that the ship got stuck was precipitation. I know you're probably thinking, what does rain have to do with a ship in the desert where it never rains? Ah, good question. So I went to Merriam-Webster.com and I looked up precipitation, and it said the quality or state of being precipitate. Don't you love it when they do that? Precipitation, the quality of being precipitate. But I clicked on precipitate because it had a hyperlink. It says to throw violently, to hurl. Now, I found a video over the weekend from a ship captain. He does cruise ships. But he said that he was licensed to basically be on the bridge and navigate any ship in the world, including a cargo ship. So he gave an excellent explanation. What happened is there was a windstorm on Tuesday. This ship is so large, I guess it's one of the bigger ships out there. It was built in 2018, fairly new, modern technology, huge, full of cargo. He said it basically was like a kite out there in that kind of wind. They were predicting this storm, not a rainstorm, but a windstorm of 30 to 40 knots of wind. And he said basically when that ship entered that canal, the wind was coming out of the south, that it was subject to the wind. Of course, the hindsight perspective was it should have waited a day until the storm passed and not entered the Suez Canal. But he said there's a lot of pressure to keep things moving, and so the ship went on in. Well, he said it was going too fast. It was going 8 knots initially, and what happened is the wind, sure enough, caught it and blew it up against the ship's left or port side and blew it up against the bank, where he said there was this bank effect, which basically causes the ship to kick to the right. It did. The wind caught it. They figured that speeding up might help, so they increased the speed to 13 knots. They almost collided with the starboard right side bank of the canal. They dodged that, ricocheted back again to the left side, where finally this maneuver, they kicked back, and that's what caused it to really get caught by the wind. And the wind basically just flipped it around and lodged it in between. So somebody was saying, think of a 1,400-foot ship and a 1,000-foot canal. Not much margin. And our keyword precipitate is to throw violently or hurl. Or, second word for precipitate, second definition for precipitate, to bring about, especially abruptly. Or, here's another definition under precipitate, to come suddenly into some condition. You can't make this stuff up. Can you believe that? The keywords that depicted this so directly. And also, just ironically, in the chart on Tuesday, you had the moon, Jupiter, and Neptune all at 21 degrees. Jupiter, of course, in Aquarius. Neptune, of course, in Pisces. Those two have been fixed for a little bit. And the moon was in Cancer. They were at 21 degrees. You remember the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, the big one that we've been talking about since the fall of 2019? Saturn and Pluto that conjoined in early January 2020, right before COVID happened at 22 degrees. This was 1 degree away from that conjunction. And you remember the last time we talked together on Thursday that we were talking of Mars being out of bounds, Mars not playing by the rules. Well, Mars is in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. This whole incident is a third house incident. In other words, this shipping accident would be in the third house. It's ruled by Mercury. Mars was square Mercury. I'm not kidding. Not only square Mercury, but it was also in a T-square with the nodes of the moon, indicating that this had some kind of bigger purpose to it. Hopefully everything gets shaken out and worked out and we move on now. The ship is floating again as of this morning, but wow, what an amazing astrological correlation to those keywords. So I know what you're thinking. What are they today? What are they today? Well, the first one, the day begins with influenceability. That's really early this morning, and then it shifts about midday to change and stays that way through the rest of the day. So influenceability and change are the two biggest keywords. The next strongest is success and achievement. And then joy and change are the last of the stronger keywords for today. You can't make this stuff up. Now, listen, I am committed to keeping this within the time bounds, so let's do a part 2 because there are some other things that we need to talk about, including another little keyword story from Sarah Wakeman, who handles the engagement over on our Facebook page at Subconscious Mind Mastery podcast listeners. Would love to have you come join us on there on Facebook. So let's do a sequel. Let's do an expanded version today, and we'll cover some of the other aspects in the sky because there is more, and this just took a long time to unfold, but it's one of the top headlines of the day and just something that is truly amazing. All right, so we will continue this. If you're jumping off here and need to go, have a great day. And if you can join us on the other one, we'll try to keep it equally as short, but there's just a lot to talk about today in the sky. All right, we'll see you in part 2.
This edition of the Fun Astrology Podcast is brought to you by Levels of Energy audiobook, written by Frederick Dodson and narrated by me. Learn how the entire universe is structured on energy and how, when we operate from low levels of energy, we naturally attract negative things into our life. But when we shift to operating from higher levels of energy, we are protected from negative things and actually start drawing beautiful things into our life. Levels of Energy audiobook is available on audible.com and iTunes.